G'day everyone, welcome back to the Hobby Hatch. Recently, I listened to the Warhammer40k Assassinorum Kingmaker book, which by the way, if you haven't listened to yet, is awesome. And depicted in that book is an epic conflict between the noble knight houses and the chaos knights of the feudal world Dominion. The book was so enjoyable that I thought I'd make a diorama so I could have a little piece of that story on my shelf to ogle at, which was daunting considering a single 28mm scale knight is a few $100s. But that's where the relatively new release of the Warhammer Legion's Imperialis saves the day, as they've re-released the epic scale Questoris Knight box, which I thought would be perfect for this project. To get started, I cut down a base of XPS foam using my hot wire cutter, and glued that to a plastic lid that I cut down to size and spray primed black. I then began work on constructing the knights themselves, starting with a noble knight of House Strider Rao. The Knight World Dominion is an interesting setting for the book. Starting as a colony world during the Dark Age technology, which was initially promised to one of the wealthy houses Strider or Rao, but during their transit to settle the planet, they were lost in the warp and presumed dead, only to appear many years after the projected arrival. In that time, the planet had been promised to another wealthy knight house who had successfully arrived and settled the planet before them. As the planet had been legally promised to both houses, each settled, and a bitter feud between them continues to the present setting. These heirs belong to the composite house Strider Rao, and the colour of their knights are shown with the heraldry of both houses. Blood red for House Strider, and sky blue for House Rao, which is how I painted my first knight. The second knight will be a part of House Morvain, a third knight house that lays claim to Dominion, but followed Warmaster Horus Lupercal during the Horus Heresy, ultimately being corrupted by the Dark Mechanicum and falling to chaos. Knights of their house are said to be a rich purple colour, reminiscent of a mixture between the colours of House Strider and Rao. Now with the book lore dump out of the way, I moved on to painting the Strider Rao Knight by first laying down a solid layer of corn red through the airbrush, to which I added a directional highlight using Mephiston red. I then masked off half of each of the armor panels I wanted to keep red, and sprayed the other half with Thousand Suns blue, which I gave a directional highlight with Lothern blue. I then went ahead and painted all the mechanical parts and armour trim of the model with Eshin Grey, which I dry brushed with Vallejo Model Air Steel.
Perfectly balanced, absolutely symmetrical. It's just,
Yes.
The entire model got a coat of gloss varnish to prep it for decals, and a burnt umber oil wash to bring out some of the grimy detail.
Well, nobody exactly looks forward to computer readout time, do they? Why not? But, it's just you never can tell what the computer has decided.
Lastly, the model was sprayed with a few coats of matte varnish to kick back some of the shine. And then I moved on to the House Morvain Knight. To get a nice rich purple colour, I first painted the model with Xeris Purple by Citadel, to which I added a directional highlight of Warlord Purple by Vallejo. The rest of the model was painted similarly to the Strider Rail Knight, with the exception to the bone spikes coming out of its back armour carapace. I wanted the thermal cannon on the knight's left arm to have a vibrant glow effect as if it was red hot and ready to fire. So to do this, I painted the entire muzzle of the cannon white. Then using Vallejo Fluoro orange and yellow with many layers, I glazed the red hot effect. I added some quick object source lighting effects by painting the areas which I wanted the light to reach with white, which I then hit with fluoro orange. Once dry, I picked out a more condensed spot where I wanted the light intensity to be brightest, and I glazed over fluorescent yellow, swapping between orange and yellow to get the transition as smooth as it needed to be. I then moved back to the base, adding a layer of plaster, Mod Podge and paint to seal the XPS foam core, and to add a little bit of fine texture. Once it had partially dried, I used a wet paintbrush to add an indication of a dried up stream or gully down the right hand side. After it fully dried, I began painting it with a layer of Mournfang brown, which I gave a directional highlight with Baneblade brown from the top. The gully got a coat of Morghast bone, which was similarly highlighted with Screaming Skull by Citadel. The entire base was washed with Agrax Earthshade, with the excess being dabbed off with a paper towel. Once this had dried, I mixed up some static grass and PVA glue into the approximate consistency of cat vomit, sorry for that image, and then I painted that over the base, leaving the gully bare. With that dry, I dabbed in burnt umber pigment powder, which I then rinsed into all of the crevices using a wet brush. With that all done, the knights were glued into position, with the House Strider Round Knight's Reaper Chainsword making contact with its Morvain rival's shoulder armour. To make this stand out, I painted in some glowing effects to make it look like it was tearing to the Trade Knight's shoulder. I then wanted to try a little effect I've seen to make it look like sparks being thrown from this head. So on a piece of flat clear plastic, I randomly darted white streaks over it, which I tinted the ends of with some fluorescent yellow paint. That in place, the piece was done, and it was onto the glamour shots. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. If you liked what you saw, consider leaving a like and subscribing for more hobby-related antics. It really helps the channel grow. And continue adding your comments and feedback. I read all of them, and it really warms my heart to see all the kind feedback that people have been leaving over the last few videos, so thank you so much. As usual, there's more content on the way, so stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next one.